Should America be opening up so soon, or should we be focusing on other tasks before we go back to the new normal? Well, today the Dow lost 500 points, third straight day in a row. A lot of that had to do with Powell, who is the chairman of the Fed, spoke today and told his opinions of things going on. He spoke a lot about how the economic response has been, he says right here, timely and appropriately large, but it may not be the final chapter given the path ahead is likely uncertain and subject to significant downside risks. He goes on and he talks more and more about how he thinks that what we've done now is basically just get Americans through, but not stimulate the economy. So more needs to be done here in the near future to actually stimulate the economy, to grow it, to make people want to spend money and not sit at home. But at the same time, there's other tasks that need to go across first before we can even get to stimulating the economy. And we're going to go through some articles about it. I'll give you my thoughts, and I'll hopefully make you think a little more about this possibility of a V-shaped recovery and just dumping all your money in now and hoping in just a couple months you'll get double that out. Because I don't think that's going to happen. Today, Fauci had a meeting with the Senate, and he gave testimonies about what's going on, how he feels we're going to progress, and other useful information to our legislators. Trump did not agree. Unfortunately, in my opinion, Trump doesn't really have a say to what Fauci has to say. Fauci is the doctor, Trump is simply a leader. Trump, in my opinion, should be doing as any good manager, leader should do, and listening to the people who are excellent in their field, such as Fauci. He says here that there are dire consequences of reopening schools and states too soon. But Trump has talked a lot about wanting to reopen states as soon as possible, as well as reopening schools as soon as possible, but maybe not having teachers in the schools who are too old. But that doesn't put a lot of thought into it. What about these kids' grandparents that now don't get to see them? What about the fact that children can still foster this virus, even if they don't show as many symptoms, and they can still spread it just as easily as anybody else? It's, in my opinion, not really thinking the right direction, especially once we get going to where it will lead us to down this path. But Trump is very unhappy with Fauci, and he never quite said what specific answer, what specific thing that Fauci said was unacceptable. But it seems to me that possibly all of it he found is unacceptable. I don't know how I feel about that. But this all leads into what we're worried about. This leads into a second wave, having to re-close down economies, Americans getting back to normal, and then not. That's going on right now in China. Wall Street Journal put out an article talking about how China is revving up testing amid a second wave coronavirus fears. So there's some signs that in China there could possibly be a second wave of COVID coming through, and they're trying to do everything they can to close things back down and get things back in check and keep people quarantined this time around. And here in America, that's a huge risk as well. So let's take a look. This is Worldometer. This is a great tool. I've been watching it a lot, especially when we were back down here, watching how quick the doubling times were. And that still holds true largely. You know, I went to my last public event. I went to on March 8th. That was a Sunday. We only had 541 cases in the nation. By the end of the month, generally speaking, between the 20th and the end of the month is when most states close down. We had between 19,000, and by the end of the month, we were almost 200,000 cases. In fact, one day later, we were over 200,000 cases. That's a pretty substantial number. But we're a lot worse than that now. We can see up here, we're all up to about 1.4 million cases. But that's not actually the true number. The active cases are what we're looking at. We can see in America We've had 1.42 million cases, but there's only currently a little over 1 million people with the virus. That's a lot. That's like 1 out of 360 people. That's pretty substantial. um, and to think that there's likely people walking around spreading this virus who don't know that they don't show symptoms yet, or just have mild symptoms and aren't thinking about it, and we're considering just reopening the nation and just letting people run free. I don't know if I agree with that. This leads me to think that we've done a great job if you look at it about getting this. We were on a big ramp up here and now we're starting to flatten off. And to think that we could just turn this into an S curve and very rapidly just start going up again. My state specifically, we've already opened up barber shops, though most are making you wear masks. Bars and restaurants are open at a supposed reduced capacity, but I've been seeing some large reports within my state that bars are not listening to this reduced capacity, and public events are starting to open back up as well. And I think it's probably a little too soon. And some people might say, but masks work. We just should wear masks. And I agree, masks likely do work. So things that you can go to where you can wear a mask, a great example is haircuts. Everybody should just do that, and it would solve a lot of our problems. But things like bars and restaurants, it's not feasible to wear masks. So I think that they should probably stay takeout. If you can do most anything in your life, but you have to eat and drink at home for a couple more months, I'd say your problems in your life are pretty small. But then there's other things going on. Some people point to remdesivir or hydroxychloroquine or other medicines that have come up. But do those actually work? It doesn't look like it. It's actually hydroxychloroquine. This is from a company, by the way, GoodRx. If you don't use GoodRx, you absolutely should for any prescription you have. It will save you a lot of money. Look it up. Anyways, hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine, they're the same drug. Hydroxychloroquine was just made later to help with some of the side effects. But there are two medications that have been used for decades to treat malaria and autoimmune conditions like RA and lupus. There we go. At this point, there's not enough medical data to prove that hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine work for COVID-19. Some small studies suggest that the medication be helpful, but then there have also been other small studies that saw the opposite of no benefit. They've seen death rates actually go higher, and with people who have any sort of heart problems, it can be immensely deadly. And on top of this, there's now a shortage of hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine because all of these COVID patients were attempting to take this medicine, and that's taken away from people that really truly need it as well, such as people with autoimmune disease, rheumatoid arthritis, and lupus. Some of these people could also die without their medicine, and if not die, their life will be greatly affected. So, hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine right now don't really look to be the solution either. But Forbes put out an article recently about remdesivir. This was the drug made by Gilead. There are some good stage 3 trial results that came out a while ago. Stock market raced up on that news, but has since started to go back down. And why is that? Well, we can see here. There was a Chinese article, and let me see here if I can find it again. Oh, here we go. Remdesivir conducted in China and published in Lancet suggests there is no such drop in viral load. So what they're looking for, since this is an antiviral medicine, they're looking for the viral load in the patients to drop, showing that the antiviral effects are killing the virus. But here, they say that none of them had a drop in viral load because of remdesivir. So if it is working, it's working for some other reason likely. And on top of this, remdesivir can't get out that many doses of it. It takes, I believe it was either 2 or 3 doses a day for a minimum of a 5-day period. That's 10 pills minimum. I think it's 3 a day though, so 15 per day. And they said that they could only get out 1 million by the end of the year, 1 million doses. That's best case situation, only 100,000 people treated through it. But again, if we go back to this, we can see right now that there's over 1 million people with COVID. And on top of that, almost 100,000 deaths alone. That's not looking great either. So what do I think needs to happen? Well, I think America is changing in positive ways. I think some companies are coming out with great programs to be able to open back up. And let's be honest, masks do work. They don't work like you think they do. Well, a lot of people think they do. They don't keep the virus from coming into you. Once it's in the air and aerosolized, it's likely so small that it can squeeze through your mask with relative ease. But it really helps keep the virus contained within you, which is fine. Once you have it, you have it. You can't get it more. So if everybody wore a mask, we should have no issues. And a lot of companies can get back to normal with that policy in place. Think places like Dave & Buster, Topgolf, movies, even production facilities. Tesla's having huge issues with California not allowing them to open up properly as they choose. But if they follow social distancing and masks wearing to a T, there should be no problems. And America is trying to make us believe that going to the grocery store is still safe. But if Tesla producing cars isn't safe, why should grocery stores not be safe either? And there's a lot of people as well that speak of wearing masks is just against your freedoms, it's inconvenient, it's not comfortable. Well, by that statement, so are pants, but you have to wear those when you leave the house. So I think masks should be the same way until we get a solid treatment, a solid vaccine, a plan in place that actually starts to lower our numbers and show true proof that you won't die because of COVID. Because the likelihood of getting this and then passing is pretty substantial. I mean, we can do the basic math. We have 1.4 million people, 85,000 dead. Well, if our testing's up to snuff, that's about a 6% death rate. That is incredibly high. But then if you want to say that, oh, the death rate's lower because our total cases is higher, well, that leads more back to our issue. You know, it keeps being referred to by a lot of people as an invisible enemy. If our testing got better and we truly knew who had it, would it be invisible anymore? I don't think so. And maybe we'd find that this was all overhyped, that 45 million Americans have already had it. But more likely, we'd probably just find 100,000 to maybe 1 million people that had it with low symptoms or no symptoms that are currently walking around your neighborhood spreading the disease without even knowing it, possibly causing people's lives to end that are near you. And we don't want that. So what should America do once again? Well, I don't know. It's all bad. It's what is the lesser of two evils. But I think one of the worst evils is us opening up too early. Americans feeling comfortable to go back to normal. People once again getting sick. People once again dying. People unnecessarily dying. And in the stock market, if we had to close down again, I think those would be days and losses and new lows that you've never seen before. It would be something like the Great Depression. And we don't want that. We want this number to stop growing. And until it does, the economy will never go back to where it was. And as this starts to spike out of control again, the economy will go lower than it ever has gone before. That's my 10 cents. Let me know your thoughts below. Tell me where I'm wrong, where I'm right, and what you think we should do. Thanks for watching.